In the next two lessons, we will discuss handling junk and clutter. Let's move on to part 1 of handling junk and clutter. Let's start with junk. Who likes spam or junk email? I don't imagine any of you are raising your hand. No one I know likes this. Outlook 2016 cannot stop junk or spam email from being delivered to you, but it can do what it does. It moves these messages into another folder beside your inbox, known as junk. For this lesson, we'll open up the Folders pane, and we'll pin it so that we can see it here. As I said, it moves those items into your junk email box here. The junk folder is enabled by default, but you can turn it off if you wish. Additionally, there are several levels of protection that can be adjusted by the use of the junk folder. Now, before we get into the options available for the junk email folder, I want to say this. Even if you disable the junk email folder, if you're using an email service that contains junk or spam filtering, it may still occur in the background. It just won't be shown in your inbox in Outlook. Now let's look at the options available for the junk email folder. In your inbox, if you navigate to the Home tab here in the ribbon, in the Delete section located here, we'll select the Junk drop-down message. If you select this drop-down menu and then choose Junk Email Options at the bottom of the list, that'll take you into the Junk Email Options folder. Now, before we get into these, please note that in many organizations there are policies in place that determine the levels and settings for these. Please check with your IT administrator before you make any changes if you're within an organization. In the Junk Email Options window, there are several tabs which we will go through. We'll start with the Options tab. The first option on the Options tab is the level of protection used for junk email filtering. By default, this should be set to No Automatic Filtering. This means mail from blocked senders is still moved to the junk email folder. Likely, you will want to put this on Low, but there is also a high setting. The last setting will only allow email through from people added to your Safe Senders list, which we will discuss next. I highly recommend avoiding this option as it will seriously inhibit most email from getting to you. So if you choose the Safe List Only option for filtering of your junk email, then the only people who will be able to get messages to you are those listed in this tab here. For now, we'll go back to the Options tab. Let's look at permanently deleting junk email rather than moving it to the junk email folder. I recommend against this because the filters sometimes get it wrong and non-junk messages wind up in junk. If you were to select this option and that occurred, that non-junk email would then be deleted. So you do have the option to permanently delete suspected junk email instead of moving it to the junk email folder. But again, every once in a while Outlook gets it wrong, and in that case, that non-junk email would then be deleted. For the next two options, if they're available to you, I recommend that they be checked. These are precautionary options, and don't actively make any changes. Disable links and other functionality in phishing messages. The benefit here is if Outlook disables links and other functionality in a non-phishing message, you can always right-click the header of the email and re-enable those things. The last item is warn me about suspicious domain names in email addresses. Well, I see no reason why this would be a problem. This doesn't filter anything out. It merely allows Outlook to say to you, hey, we think this might be suspicious. In my inbox, I have this checked, and I get one of these messages very rarely, so it's not an inhibiting option. Next, let's look at the Safe Senders tab. The Safe Senders and Safe Recipients tab we'll look at together. These tabs allow you to add those whom you trust will not send you any junk email. That's the Safe Senders tab. Any emails sent from anyone on this list will stay in your inbox no matter the content of the email. You can add or remove people from this list, same with the Safe Recipients. If you have a file list of safe senders, you can import that using the import from file. Let's say you're moving from a previous version of Outlook on a different PC and you're moving it over and you've got this great huge list of safe senders, you can export that to a file and then import the file here. The last two options at the bottom here are also trust email from my contacts. This is something that you can check if you wish to. And the last option, automatically add people that I email to my safe senders list. This is up to you. I'll leave these options for you to decide on. They're pretty self-explanatory. Let's look at blocked senders. These are email addresses that you have identified as spam senders. If you find an email that you believe is junk and perhaps you've received more than one message from this spammer, you can right-click the message, select the junk option, and then choose Block Sender. It's that simple. When you do that, their email address would then be added to this list, and it would be blocked for all future emails. Blocked meaning all of their messages would immediately go to the junk folder. This list should remain relatively short unless you receive quite a lot of junk. The last tab here is International. I'll let you utilize this tab if you deal with a lot of international email. On your own, read the explanation and determine if you can benefit from utilizing these junk filters. Before we move on to Clutter, a word to the wise. The junk folder should be checked on a regular basis for items that are not, in fact, junk. My recommendation is to set a weekly reminder to check this folder. If you find something in junk that isn't junk, you can drag and drop it back into the inbox or another folder. Outlook should learn and know that that message you moved should not be considered junk. Another option is you can right-click that message in the junk folder, navigate to the junk menu, and select Mark the message as not junk. And that completes part 1 of handling junk and clutter.